history.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pei.
And welcome. You're tuned to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, Streaker, and more. And this is a show about hope and happiness, balancing out all of the bad news that's so readily available and focusing on good news, good people, good topics, good series, and good co-hosts. It is Wednesday, and you can see that I have Dr. Tiffanie Tate in studio, which means it's time for Doctors in the House with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
Welcome back, darling.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And we are now into my 12th year for this show about hope and happiness. No gossip, no scandal, no K-words, no Kanye talk now, formerly or later. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show. And so we have topics that affirm having a really good and happy life. What's the topic for today, Dr. Tiffanie?
The limited commodity of time.
And good morning to our Catholic gallery. Jerry Foxwell Cater is here. She's a sorority sister of Dr. Tiffany's. Welcome back to the studio as well. Those of you who are driving and listening to me on my AM 1050, FM 106.5, please do not check. Wait till you get to wherever you're going, and then you can use your computer or smartphone and get to my YouTube TV channel. If you just Google Dr. Marissa or Asian Oprah, you'll find it. Free subscribe, and you'll get to stream in and chat. Also on Facebook or LinkedIn. We love to have you participate. It makes it even better of a show, even though it's already great. Thanks to all of you supporting and proving the people that said this show that doesn't talk about everything else that everybody else is talking about wouldn't last a year. But I'm glad to say we are beyond our 12th year now. And I love to start every show with breakfast. So you're going to have breakfast with us by taking a bite of our gratitude sandwich. Top of the bun, 8 things you're specifically grateful for. Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's my teacher on the other side, in heaven, loving us from there. He said 5 things every morning. I'm an overachiever, recovering overachiever. And 8's the lucky number in Chinese. That's why we do 8. It's a homophone for good fortune. That's why we do 8 on the top. Gratitude is things you like on the outside of you. Appreciation's the bottom of the bun. We're going to model it for you to do before you go to bed. Things that you like about yourself inside. So that's the drill. Dr. Tiffany, start us off. What are you grateful for?
Well, I am grateful and I am praising the good Lord that I am now the proud mother of 2. Dr. Marissa's double 2 graduates. Well, Mia graduated with her bachelor's degree in commercial voice. Nathaniel graduated with his master's degree in music performance on the oboe from the Azusa Pacific University here in Southern California. Yay!
Yay! That's 2 gratitudes. For Dr. Tiffany, I will say I'm grateful that I just got word that I'm speaking at 2 universities in China, in Shanghai. So they're picking up my hotel, my daughter and I's hotel in Shanghai, as well as providing us with a car to go and visit all of the beautiful tourist things and being able to see China through my daughter's first time eyes. So I'm grateful That's 4. Let's see, do we have any gratitudes in the comment section? Not yet, but we will. Jerry, hint, hint. What else are you grateful for?
And I am grateful that my son will be attending Rutgers University to get his doctorate, and he will be attending on a full tuition scholarship.
You. Okay, we're gonna do the joint. And I knew them when they came on the show and helped delight us with the holiday music. So I'm getting front row seats to your kids growing and moving and grooving, and that's truly a magnificent. My last gratitude is there's just so much. I'm grateful that I'm looking straight at the Queen Mary that I got to come across on when I was 4 years old. From London, England to New York. And it's kind of like weird that now, let's see if I can point it right, I get to see it right outside my window. Do you see it?
I see it. It looks beautiful.
Isn't that amazing? Anyways. All right. So that's it for the top of the bun. Let's go to the bottom of the bun, which is, thank you for the finger, by the way. We got some fingers there.
We have a gratitude from Jerry.
Not that finger.
Oh,
this finger.
We actually have a gratitude from Jerry now.
Yep. Grateful for another day. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite ones. The planets did not crash into each other last night. We are still here. And it's very apropos for the topic for today, talking about time after time. Time passages. When I went to that, were you with me at that concert? No, you weren't, I don't think. No. Al, why am I blanking on his last name? He did Year of the Cat. Al Stewart. Anyways, all right, that's the top of the bun. Thank you for participating and following direction, Jerry, on your gratitude. Let's go to the bottom of the bun. What do you like about yourself? Why is that important? It's my BS, my belief system. That self-love, self-approval, self-soothing is the hallmark or foundation of good mental health. So many of us have this voice in our head that tells us you're not all that, you're not good enough, and that is bullshit. And so this good life exercise habit, discipline is to help us all know that we are wonderful, one of a kind, wonderful, and not beat ourselves up so bad. So what do you like about yourself, Dr. Tiffanie?
I like the fact that I have grown a lot, because a lot of people can say things that you find offensive. And I think that it is hilarious, because sometimes you have the ability or the tendency to want to clap back at them. But I basically laugh it off. I'm like, that's funny. As opposed to be offended and be like, oh, how dare you? I'm like, whatever, because I just let it roll off the back of me like, water off a duck's back. So I thank God for growth and not the tendency to get all in my feelings and want to clap back and stir up animosity.
I concur and identify and raise at 8. I have most of the time, 88% of the time, I do not respond with, if I look like you, I'd be miserable too. I said 88% of the time.
Absolutely.
Any appreciation there, Jerry? I'm going to wait for you again to see if you chime in there. What do you appreciate about yourself? I appreciate my ability to laugh often and much, which is actually the first line of the definition of success for Ralph Waldo Emerson. To laugh often and much. Favorite sound on the planet.
Speaking of laughter, I appreciate my ability to laugh at myself because I'm okay with laughing at myself, not just laughing at other people. Some people like to make fun of other people, but I'm okay with making fun of myself. I don't always take myself too seriously. Some people are like, "Oh, I'm a doctor, I'm this, I'm that," and they get all pious. But I think sometimes I can be a goofball, and my family will attest to that. Um, but I like to laugh at myself.
Yeah, wonderful. And that's it for Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
and we're here today to an echo. Are you getting an echo on me?
Not hear an echo. So
That's
we're
good.
good.
Yay. Jerry is able to still do the things for myself and do things for others. Beautiful. These are the kinds of things and compliments that I would like you to take to bed with you tonight. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm just talking about yourself, and bring your appreciation of yourself to be the last thing on your mind before you go to bed, so that you're not falling asleep wondering, oh, why did they say that? Or why did they do that? Or doing this called MS scrolling, meaningless scrolling. So if you want an advanced happiness challenge, plug this puppy in somewhere else outside of your room. And that way you will get in touch with the goodness of yourself. Because frankly, my dear, if you can't approve of yourself, how the fork do you expect anyone else to? That is it for breakfast. 28 days. You can do it with me, yet or not. But we just want you to be happy 88% of the time. And now, drum roll, please. My co-host, Dr. Tiffanie Tate, who, by the way, is a board-certified OBGYN. That's how she gets her doctor. I am an organizational psychologist, a PhD, which just stands for piled higher and deeper in organizational psychology. That's why we're called Doctors in the House. We do not dispense prescribed treatments. That's not the kind of show this is. However, we do have a little experience, not just from our professions, but certainly in our coaching practices with people. And that's what we like to bring here. And thank you for all of the kudos and the appreciations that you've been giving both of us on the ability to be available. So if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. And Dr. Tiffanie is going to, again, explain why she picked this particular topic called
The precious commodity of time, the limited commodity of time, the non-renewable resource of time.
That's mine.
Yes, absolutely. And I picked this topic because past basically month, and especially the past 2 weeks, people have constantly been asking me for my time, and I have had to shut it down. And I have been in meeting after meeting, and sometimes my meetings have had meetings. And my daughter has been like, "Mom, you're in another meeting, you're in another meeting, you're in another meeting." And I was actually at an event, and someone was like, "Hey, why don't you join this organization?" And I was like, "Well, is your wife in the organization?" And they were like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, how are you going to ask me to be in this organization when your wife isn't even in this organization? And I already volunteer. So I don't even need to be in the organization to volunteer for the organization." So I'm like, okay, I'm already running around kind of like a chicken with my head cut off, and I do a lot already. And I have all these demands on my time that I rarely have time for me and to spend time with my dog and to relax. And I'm constantly doing things. And then I still want to write. And I'm like, okay, time for yourself is necessary. And I remember we did that episode, Journey to the Center of You, and you have to make a priority you have to make yourself a priority. And it's not a narcissistic thing. It's just that you have to prioritize you sometimes. And we always focus on, okay, saving money. We always focus on putting aside time, putting aside money for retirement, and focusing on making sure we set time aside to work. But we don't necessarily focus on managing our time. We always act as if we have all the time in the world, but we never focus really on managing our time appropriately. We get on Facebook, we get on Instagram, we do all this mindless scrolling, but time is a limited resource. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so the limited commodity of time is something that I felt we should probably address and discuss, because everybody's always grabbing at it. They're like, hey, why don't you come to this event? Why don't you come to that event? And with all these graduations and events and things going on, I know I invite people to lots of different things. And I'm like, it's okay if you don't come. They're like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't come. I'm like, it really is okay. I get it. Your time is limited. You don't have to apologize to me if you can't come. I mean, I know sometimes I can't make it to things. It really is okay. But people really feel bad if they can't do something. And I think it's okay if you can, because your time is precious.
Absolutely. I have been known to react when people say time is money, because time is very different than money.
Mhm.
Money, you can make, lose, do over, invest, save. You can do a lot where you can rinse and repeat. But time, this hour that we're on, we're not going to get to do. You can't capture this time and do something else with it. That's why I call it a non-renewable energy, right? Once it's done, it's done. And I think that, and I'm going to, at the risk of like not making any of my West Coast family happy, friends and family, there is a very different consciousness around time. I lived in New York. I lived on the East Coast of Canada, or Central East. And I would know 6 months to the day what I was doing. I have that. It's not a lack of time consciousness, but the preciousness of time consciousness. I will say my most precious resource is not money, it's time. And so if someone cancels on me once, nobody's perfect. If they cancel on me twice, they're not a bad person, but they're just not a match with me, because I could have done something else with that time.
Absolutely.
So I know that we agree on this, and that's why we get along a lot too. But I was challenged the other day by a girlfriend who said, you know, if you press that one, because I started dating again after 7 years, my reverse 7-year itch, putting different body parts in, dipping different body parts into the dating pool. I like that visual. And when I've been not complaining, but close. The guys who want to chat, right? And they, it's important to have some kind of understanding how do you get my sense of humor? Do you get my LOLs and all of that? But at some point it is, if you're not going to set up something to meet me in person to do the chemistry test, right? To see if there's a physical attraction, I'm not even going to chat with you anymore. It's a waste of my time. And she said, you're going to turn off a lot of guys. And it's like, oh, well, because if I turn off men who don't get that, I don't want them in my life. I don't have time to be, chit-chatty. I want to I have plenty of time for you if there is a litmus test passed on the chemistry.
Yeah, because while time is free, time is priceless, and you make time for what is important to you. So if I'm not important enough for you to spend time with me, then I'm not a priority for you. So if you want to prioritize me, then you will make time for me. You'll make time to text me. You'll make time to talk to me on the phone. You will make the time for the time. And you will make time for what you want. You'll make time for what you want in a relationship. You'll make time for what you want in a friendship. You'll make time for what you want with your children. You'll make time for what you want with your family members. And it's all about time because once the time passes, that time is gone. And we have to always think about that because once it's gone, the opportunity is gone and the opportunity has passed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If you just tuned in, you're wondering what's going on in studio today. This is Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, number one talk in the IE, 25 years strong. AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, my show Central, where it houses 1,160, I think 3 we're at now. So please do free subscribe on my YouTube channel so you can get access as well. We are streaming right now at LinkedIn and YouTube channel. We have Jerry Manning and the captain of my cashew gallery in the chat. We're talking about time, and it's about time that we talked about time. So if you have any opinions on this or any experiences, please do engage with us with that. And you've made we're kind of preaching to the choir, so I am going to have to now be contrary to myself and you and balance it out and put the moose on the table. Look what I brought back from Canada. And it's so soft. This is okay. So for those of you who are new on the show, I am originally from Canada. And so my expression when I want to talk about the elephant in the room is I talk about the moose on the table. So we now have a prop here. This is the moose. All right. So the moose on the table is, and this comes from both spiritual teachings, that law of attraction, that the looking at time as a lack consciousness, or I never have enough time, I don't have enough time, will continue to put you in that place of you never have enough time. So that's one balancing out. So the value in saying, I have all the time in the world, even though you may not, is you by saying I never have enough time, you are making things worse. That's the easiest way for me to put it for law of attraction. The other thing is there some value in not having time all scheduled and not taking it personally when someone doesn't take the time to text you back, call you back, make time to meet, my example, schedule time to meet, or cancels? Like, is that, I've really come a long way, which is hard to believe. I used to take that so personally. If you cancel on me, that is like a fate worse than death, and it just would zing me, and I would take it personally. And it's like, one more time, someone's abandoning me in a little way, right? Which is really not helpful. They just canceled on you, and it could be for a good reason, and it doesn't mean that they don't love you or value you or respect you. So just balancing out kind of what we've been saying, that I can get to, I can get my undies all wrapped up a little too much on this time consciousness thing.
There's the book, The Four Agreements, and there's the
Don't
rules to the
take
Four
things.
Agreements.
Yeah.
You know, be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And it's a really small little book, and you can read it in basically a day. You can get it on Amazon or whatever.
Do you
And
know
I,
he's been on the show a couple
yeah,
times? He's okay. He's a
yeah.
friend of
Yes, and I've read the book, and I think that will help anyone in any relationship. But I think also that when it comes to time, everyone has the same 24 hours. Now you're looking at someone who used to work 30 hours a day, and you say, "What? 30 hours a day? There's only 24 hours a day." Well, that's because I would go into work that morning and get off the next day at about 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. So even though I was working, that shift and overnight, you still have breaks. You still have time to text someone, to call someone. So no one can truly say that they don't have time. You make time for what is important to you, especially nowadays because there's FaceTime, there's texting. There's no job that you can't make time for what is important to you. So if someone is truly important to you, you make time because quality time is important in a relationship because it helps to build the friendship, create closeness, and improves the overall quality of relationship. And if you're starting out, those are the building blocks of success. And if you're trying to foster a relationship for growth and development of an interpersonal relationship, you need that communication. And we had a talk about communication. Communication of a relationship is based on a communication. If you're just talking about friendship, I think it's important. So, say for instance, Mia had a graduation and a friend couldn't come to the graduation. Her graduation was last week. If that friend had to work, okay, and they couldn't come to the graduation or the graduation party, that's fine. Call her. You didn't have to work every day, 24 hours a day since then. You can still call and say, hey, congratulations. You make time for what's important. So if you really value that friendship, a phone call doesn't mean that you can't pick up the phone and say, hey, congratulations, or shoot a congratulation text. Your fingers aren't broken. It's all about communication,
Mhm.
quality time, quality communication. So again, you make time for what's important. Time.
It is a choice. And I say this all the time. It's the ch word. It's not the C word of commitment. It is the ch word. It's very powerful, but it says where your energy is. It says where your value is, your importance is. It's so funny because right now something's happening. Like I forgot to put it on silent. And this individual who will remain unnamed to protect the guilty, I have been trying to get a response about a schedule for a month. I've texted, emailed, everything. I almost talk about assumptions. I almost canceled the gig because I never heard back. I don't have a contract and I'm holding these days for him, right? 5 days. And nothing, 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 nothing. Thank God I didn't, say fork you and the schedule you came in on. And I contacted the administrator and they're like, oh, we're so excited to have you. It's going to be great. And da 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 da. So I didn't cancel. But now it's like, I just left you a voicemail. Please call me now. Da 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 da. And it's like, oh my God, really?
Mhm.
I know he's not listening otherwise. But it's like, wow. That to me is like so disrespectful, very difficult not to take it personally. All I can say is that we actually matched on one of the apps, and it turned into a professional, But man, I would never even consider on any other level. Like it's not even. Anyways, I just talk about real-time examples of time. And it definitely can ruin a relationship, because it's not like, if you're really go with the flow, I hate that expression. Let's pencil it in, or let's what was that word what phrase I'm looking for is help me, Dr. Tiffanie. When you say something to someone, like, you don't make firm plans, you say, what am I talking about? Jerry, help me. There's an expression of we'll
see what happens.
We'll see what happens, something like that. But there's another expression, but that's very close. We'll see what happens. We'll see what pans out. Okay. Mm-hmm. Drives me crazy. And I don't want to see what pans out, because I am a creator. I am the
hard plan. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think what the problem is that, we cannot turn back the clock. We cannot recapture time. Once it's spent, it's done. We cannot save it. We cannot put it back in our pocket. And a lot of people think, okay, well, let's just play with it. And time is not meant to be played with. It's meant to be managed.
Oh. Sorry. Play it by ear.
Yeah. Play by ear. Yeah. And some people, as scientific as we are, PhD, MD, we don't want to play it by ear. We want to plan. And I think even when I go on vacation, I think my children are like, Mom, really? I'm like, yes. I'm like, okay, this is the schedule. This is the plan. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. And I usually have a layout, and I'm like, this is the schematic. And I'm like, okay, we can deviate a little bit, but I usually have an agenda. And they laugh at me. And I'm like, it's okay. We can deviate a little bit from it, but this is the skeletal plan. And they just chuckle, because they know that this is how I have the layout. But I believe it is the most efficient way to do things. And we usually have a great time, but they always look to me and they expect that. Even my family, when we take an extended family vacation, they're like, okay, we want Tiffanie to plan this out, because they know they're going to have a great vacation, because I usually have an agenda. And they're like, okay, we know we're going to hit all the major spots. She's going to have done all the research, and I'm going to have read all the reviews, because I want to maximize our time, because time is important. It is not meant to be wasted, and I want to do the best thing possible. But a lot of time you can overcommit yourself if you don't plan your time accordingly.
Okay, I agree. And again, I'm going to put the moose on the table, that this is one of those personality differences. So the Myers-Briggs is the only personality inventory that I use, because it doesn't, the thing I don't like about personality tests sometimes is it puts you in a box. However, there are differences in personality, and one of those indices is J versus P. And we are both high J. What does J stand for? It stands for judging. Now, doesn't mean you're judgmental. It can mean that you do have a predisposition to be judgmental, but judging just means you want a plan. You want to be able to know, is it good, bad, right, wrong? What category does it go into? And it feels good to close things. It doesn't feel good to leave it open, like play it by ear, right? That's leaving it open. The fate worse than death is to have things always open and gray and not decided. Doesn't feel good for us because we're high J. High P's, on the other hand, sounds like Mia is one. P is for perceiving. Now, what does that mean? It means that You want all your options before you close. Therefore, you leave it open as long as possible before you close. Now, the best example, I chose to marry a high P and I am a high J. And this interaction is the best example. We go on vacation. You brought up vacation. See if this sounds familiar. I say at breakfast, so what do you want to do for dinner? Right? I want to close. I want to know. He says, I'm having breakfast. Can we just enjoy breakfast and not have to decide about dinner? And I'm like, okay, that's fair, right? I can wait. Lunchtime. So what do you want to do for dinner? And he says, I'm having lunch. What are the options? So we list off some options. Let me think about it. I'm like, right? So 3:30, he says, I've decided, why don't we go to Morton's, let's just say. And I'm like, I can't get reservations at Morton's. If you had told me this morning, it would have happened, but now it's too late and they don't have anything. And that is a typical interaction between a high J and a high P. So if you were a high P, you would be telling me all of that's good and well for the way you decide how you see time. For me, I have all the time in the world, and it doesn't really matter if, things are all planned out. That's too restrictive. So for all the high P's out there, I just gave you your ammunition to respond back to a high J. Does that make sense? Have you heard of that indices before? I'm sure you have.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So I find it very helpful, though, to try to have a little understanding of where the other side's coming from, but I still prefer to plan. I don't know. I don't know what it would be like to be with someone who is the same as me on high P in a romantic relationship. You were married to a high P, I'm guessing, too.
Yes.
Isn't that and opposites attract? Because there may be a part of us that does want to be a little more go with the flow, and so we pick people who are too much over the go with the flow. Mm-hmm. And I just looked up play it by ear, and I didn't realize some people actually say play it by YEAR. So that is a similar, because I think play it by ear is like the visual I get is me playing the piano with my ear, which is kind of like dumb. So maybe that's why I hate the expression. But I just thought that was an interesting thing. Anyways, if you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in the studio, this is Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show, and a very special Wednesday series called Doctors in the House with me and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
And we're talking about time today. And we're talking about the importance of time and debating with ourselves, or I'm debating with myself and Dr. Tiffanie, if it truly is a bigger deal than it is for us who are very high J's. So if you have any questions or comments on that topic, please do go to my YouTube channel, free subscribe, and or LinkedIn and Facebook, and you can put in your 8 cents worth. All right. Now, you usually do research, so I'm waiting for the research here.
Okay, so I looked up overcommitment of time because, like I said, I brought up this because people were demanding my time left and right. And overcommitment is when someone commits more, of course, than is necessary or desirable. And it can include and lead to harmful effects, including decreased mental health. If you're in school, if you get involved into too many activities, poor grades, less sleep, being removed from different organizations or clubs. And here are five signs if you are overcommitted: feeling constantly overwhelmed and exhausted, if you start to neglect personal well-being and self-care, having little to no free time for relaxation or leisure activities, and frequently missing deadlines or making mistakes, And if you're suffering from FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and you suffer from people pleasing tendencies. So
Mhm.
I was like, okay. And the root causes of overcommitment, they stem from basically the fear of missing out, FOMO, and underestimating the time and energy required for completing a task. So a lot of times people are always asking you to do something and you feel the need to just always help. So remember, it's okay to know your limits. And so for me, I began to flex my no muscles. And I think you should not be afraid to do that as well. So then I began to look up some strategies to avoid overcommitment. um, Prioritize, assess your capacity and need to prioritize your task, set boundaries. Boundaries are very important. Make sure your non negotiable needs are met and set clear boundaries. Manage your time. So make sure you use a calendar and task list. And remember, make sure your no means no and your yes means yes. Delegate. Make sure you ask for help. Practice self care. Get your massage, get your mani, your pedi, whatever you need for you. And limit your distractions. Make sure you turn off your phone, limit self scrolling. So, those were some of the things that I looked up.
Great. I have the voices. I talked about the critic before. I also used to have an internal Penelope, the people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime anybody asked me anything, I would say yes. And it got me in a lot of trouble because I also add FOMO to that. So I was always saying yes and saying, I'll do that. And as a result, I don't know if any of you relate to this, I was constantly cutting things close. So that expression began to rule my life. And I was either rushing and apologizing, right? Or I was, accidents, things like that. So when I coach people who have that tendency, and Penelope, the people pleaser, is driving your life car over a cliff, I ask them to adopt a discipline of every 5 requests, you say no, no matter what it is. And that is a tough love thing, but it helps you exercise that ability to say no. They hate it because what if the 5th thing is like, I'm going to fly you to Paris and you say no. So then that's the threat I use to, you either do this on your own and decide, or you institute the 5-to-1 rule. So that usually works. The other reaction and reflection when you were talking about that is, for me as a recovering overachiever, it's my job to manage my FOMO. I cannot be everything to everyone. I cannot do everything for everyone. And if I do this, do that, do this, do that, I end up in do. So I like that one too. I also have become cognizant that if I plan out my days so closely and so completely, I block out some magical opportunities. And this is where I have really shifted on planning and controlling. The last chapter in 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are says out of control into happiness. And I use this as my Happy 88 tool for anyone that sounds like me or has had experiences as a professional woman who believes that doing too much is status quo. They had that book, Women Who Do Too Much.
Mm-hmm.
And your point is, right? Of course I have to do it all because nobody else can do it the way that I think it should be done. So you end up doing everything. And then when you do everything and no one is happy about it, or they don't appreciate it, and you can't appreciate it yourself, you're in a world of hurt. So that's where my talk, jump off that hamster wheel into balanced living, came from for myself. I have to learn how to manage my own expectations of what I can and cannot do. And once I have that, then I can just take a breath and relax and say, I'm sorry, I would love to do that, but I am full up with my commitments, because I get asked every single day to be on a board or join a group, or, and I don't want to piss anybody off or think, have them think that I don't care. So I think, as you said earlier, Dr. Tiffanie, it's so important to be able to express that it's not from an intention of, I think I'm better than you, or I think that, this isn't important. It is, and I'm glad you're doing it, but I right now am full up. So if I add one more thing, I'm going to be in doo-doo. So, yeah. So.
Well, I want to read a poem about time, and it's from my book,
Awesome.
Poetry, 108 Poetic Flows on Life, Love, and Liturgical Issue. And it says, what I need from you is time and preferential preference. You should love me as Christ loved the church, as a point of reference. I don't need every moment of your time, as that would be insane. I want to be a priority, so I know our relationship is not in vain. We make time for what is important to us. If you cannot make time for me, there is nothing to discuss. You make time for what you value, and that truth we can trust. For a relationship with me, time given is a must. A man makes a way, not an excuse. I will not argue over time, so let's call it a truce. I will not fight for your time, so please feel free to set me loose. Your time should be giving lovingly and not feel like a painful abuse. If you do not have time for me, that tells it all. My heart aches from this reality, but this is our last call. Without time together, our relationship is doomed to fail. If time given doesn't change, it's just a matter of time before we both bail.
Pretty powerful stuff there, Dr. Tiffanie. Did he read it?
I doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, again, I try to do this myself. It doesn't always work. But when there is that mismatch, it's not personal. It's just a sign that that relationship is not matching. Not personal. Doesn't mean that you weren't lovable enough. Doesn't mean that you weren't worthy of it, but there wasn't a match. So again, this thing that my daughters, thank God, use all the time is, if you're doing this and they're doing this, it's a mismatch. If you're doing this and they do this, it's a match. Oh, look, it's a match. That's the first time I've done that. So hopefully, you are with someone who matches that way. But then, as you said, Dr. Tiffanie, it's really important to manage your expectations. In the poem, I love the way, what did you say? If it's all the time, that's like ludicrous. If you need someone all the time, you need to work on yourself, right? There's a balance there. But I would say, in the relationship coaching that I do, what is that balance? How much time is enough time? How much time is too much time? It is personal, but I will say that if you don't have 3 activities that you enjoy with your person, one of them being work that isn't fun, maybe chores or whatever that you can do with them, doing the dishes together. One washes, one dries, one stacks, one, something that you can do together may not be fun. And then 2 fun things that you do together that both of you get the enjoyment out of, you're in trouble. Because then if you're doing your own thing that you love doing and they're not doing it, That's time apart. And, you know, frankly, if you're doing all that, why be with somebody, right? That's what I'm discovering now is I don't know if I have enough glue to have a relationship because I've set my life up so well for doing things that I love to do. To find somebody to fit in there, it's tough.
Yeah, and it can't always just be fun. You have to do the boring stuff together too, and enjoy each other during the boring times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I pay someone for the boring stuff. All right, it is. I'm getting the signal. Final word time. Dr. Tiffanie, what is your final word on time today?
My first final word is number one, beware of overcommitment, because that is what triggered me to do time. Time is indeed a precious commodity. Once it's gone, you can't get it back. So you can't save it. Value it, use it wisely, and spend it with people whom you value, and make time for what is important for the people who you love.
Mm-hmm. My final word is you will never have enough time and you always have enough time. So the dichotomy and the balance in time is 88% for me. 88% of the time am I having fun. 12% of the time I won't. But I do believe that in and of your lifetime, that service sometimes has gotten out of whack. We're not here to live a life of sacrifice. And that message, that BS, that belief system that we got from home or school or religion, it ruins your happiness. We're here on the planet in this little short dash between birth and death to love our lives 88% of the time. So if you're not having fun in your life 88% of the time, come work with me, work with Dr. Tiffanie. It's time, because you're not going to get this back. Every single wealthy individual on their deathbed has said almost the same thing. I wish I had spent more time with my family, with my friends, meaningful things. So that's my final. Thanks for tuning in today. This has been a timeless episode for Doctors in the House with Dr. Marissa and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
And you all know that it is about balance, peace in,
And
peace out. World peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from her loving room. Tomorrow is Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and James Hawthorne. We're going to put it together a dating sheet. We're going to start a dating game on Thursdays for all single people. Dr. Tiffanie will be participating. She just doesn't know it yet. And we're going to do the dating game. So we're going to design the questionnaire tomorrow. So tune in if you want to have some fun. Now go and have the best day ever. See you tomorrow.